Hi everybody, so today I want to talk about something that might change the entirety of your life. And I know that this sounds a bit dramatic, but trust me when I say the importance of this element in your life is going to far exceed the gravity of the word dramatic. And before I jump into explaining these three habits, let me just take a moment and explain the reason behind its importance. And I am fully aware that everybody knows by now that focus is important and there's no reason for me to dig into the obvious. But I'm gonna give you a deeper reason that nobody seems to be talking about, and knowing the reason behind it is going to further incentivize you to put even more effort into improving this area of your life. And in order for me to explain that reason to you, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a question. What is happening when you're focusing on any subject? What's happening in your mind in that state of focus? See, when we're focusing, we're holding on to multiple thoughts together. We are juggling between ideas, we're trying to put them in a very proper order so that we can come up with the best answer to that question. Or when we're tackling a problem, we might come up with multiple solutions that has been produced by multiple ideas being strung together. And all of that requires a very strong working memory, because you have to have the capacity to hold on to those thoughts and being able to engage with them in a very deep way. In other words, you're thinking very deeply about that subject. So we can all agree that without strong focus, there's no deep thinking. And without deep thinking, there's no chance for a strong character to be formed, because a strong character is only possible through intellectual independence. And if you're not capable of holding thoughts in your head, then you're not capable of deciding for yourself. And the only thing that you're gonna do is to look toward other people so that they can decide for your life. And your first instinct in any situation would be to think what other people might do in that situation. And that will lead you to be average. And the result of that would be catastrophic, because you're just gonna be fooled by what other people are doing. You're just gonna be following the herd. So there you have it. That's why I am extremely obsessed with focus, and I'm trying to strengthen this muscle so that my life improves tremendously. And I know that focus is the building block of a good life. Without it, you're probably not gonna have such an interesting livelihood. The first habit that has such a huge impact on the ability to focus is fast reading. And when I say fast reading, I don't mean to say you read 100 pages every hour or so. What I am referring to is this mentality in which you are forcing yourself to focus so deeply on the text so that your pace is gonna accelerate. You're so focused on the storyline that you have the entire image in your head. It's as if you're just like watching a movie, not slumping through texts. You are moving through the space with your head, and that's why it becomes so easy for you to follow what's happening in the story, so much so that you predict the events before they even happen. And therefore, it's gonna be so much faster when you're going through that section that is describing the event that is taking place. And this type of reading is not going to be available to you unless you zoom in and focus on what's happening in the story and completely immerse yourself into it without any outsidious distraction or even internal distraction. And it takes practice, it takes a lot of training. You're probably going to feel a bit more distracted in the beginning, and you have to get rid of that distraction and then get your attention back to the text. And that back and forth is going to be happening in the beginning, and it's okay, but you have to always reinforce this mentality that you need to go through the text very fast. And when you remind yourself that you need to go faster, your attention is going to be much more narrower, because you're limiting the amount of time you're spending on that specific section. And in this challenge, I would recommend that you do not look at the page number, because that's only gonna create further distraction. Your attention should be on understanding what's happening. Also, when you're doing this, try to find a space that is quiet. And if you do this in nature, it will be so much more easier for you to focus, because nature has this beautiful soothing effect that takes away all the further distractions, and you're capable to go deeper faster. And for this particular practice, it's so much better that you pick fiction, because it will provide a bigger scope for focus, as it has much more variables that you need to keep tabs on. The next habit I'm going to talk about is doing something crafty and creative. Anything that involves building something creative with your hands and helps you adopt the craftsmanship mentality. And I have to mention that I myself have a first-hand experience with this arena because for as long as I can remember, I've always been very much interested in art and been trying to incorporate a little bit of art in my everyday because I saw how it improved my capacity to go deep and to be able to notice the details and focus on the quality of my work rather than the quantity of my work. And that's the definition of deep work. Instead of just going faster, you slow down and you get to see much more than you normally see because you are focusing on a deeper level. And this sort of mindset has been talked about in numerous sources, one of which is Deep Work by Cal Newport. He talks about the fact that much like the craftsman, we have to focus on mastery for its own sake rather than superficial productivity or visibility. He says deep work is like honing a craft. It leads to meaningful, high-quality work that fulfills the person who's engaged in it. And when you sneak in a little bit of art into your routine every single day, over time you will notice how your attention span has developed, and you will also realize that you have such an eye for subtlety and for details. And that's exactly what deep work is about. It's about noticing the subtle nuances that gives you the satisfaction and fulfillment from within, knowing that you've put all of your effort and attention onto the work and you are cherishing that moment. And that in and of itself is going to motivate you even further. So you're doing the work for its own sake. You don't have this ulterior motive of gaining money or showing that you're busy all the time so that your boss notices you, or you're just dabbling in and out of work because you're checking your phone all the time. There could be any number of reasons why you're not committed to the deep work, and you have to figure out what it is that is preventing you from going into that deep level so that you are not trapped in that loophole forever. And the reason why I introduced this idea of doing something crafty is because, like they say, how you do anything is how you do everything. And the last habit I'm going to talk about is walking. I owe a ton of clarity to this habit. It's always been a way to fix my problems and to gain a broader perspective into any situation that I was dealing with. Whenever I went on a walk, I would try to meditate on the problem, and the problem would slowly unravel before my eyes, because as I was walking, this forward motion created this effect in my head that also moved my thought along with it. And there's this concept of productive meditation, which is something Cal Newport talks about in the book Deep Work. He says that he would pick a topic or a problem and he would go on a walk when he was commuting to work or when he was just simply taking a walk, and he would try to focus on that problem for a prolonged period of time. So whenever he'd find that his thought was drifting away, he would take it back and put it into the main problem that he was trying to solve. And that's why it's called productive meditation. I try to do this, and like he says, it takes a ton of practice to be able to gain that much focus so that you don't drift away. You have to do this for quite a while in order to be able to stay on the topic for a long time. And you have to extend that time every single time that you go on a walk. So for example, in your first walk, you're only able to do 3 minutes of just focusing on that problem. On your next walk, you're gonna extend that to 6 minutes or even beyond. It goes on and on until you reach a point that you're capable of holding that thought for an hour or 2 hours. And that's where you're gonna find deep level of thinking and focus. And so those are the 3 habits that I've been trying to practice and incorporate into my routine. But there are multiple others that I would love to talk about in future videos. And also what I've been thinking of was to make a video precisely about this book called Deep Work that I mentioned in this video as well. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.